There it goes. We're live now, I think.
Hello, how are y'all doing today? This is Hayley
Nick.
and we are going to discuss keeping dark light this week. It's been, I think we realized, like 11 days since our last post.
Yeah, we've been busy with some stuff that we'll reveal to you later.
Yep.
You know, if you are watching live, which I noticed, like, not a lot of people do, so get on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do this a little bit more regularly, too. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
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 We've been very busy, but in any case, just to kind of recap from our last post, I know I was kind of talking about, staying positive with anything going on, and how you could have, I guess, kind of results from continuous steps towards a positive direction. And I was interviewing for a couple different firms, law firms that is, and I was very hopeful that one of those law firms would have offered me a position. So this week we are going to be talking about rejection.
Now you're wearing a blazer.
Yeah, I'm wearing a blazer, so
I feel like they got to your head a little bit.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, one of the firms I interviewed with was one that I had a recruiter actually helping me all the way through it, and I was on my final interview with this firm, and we just had a camera jostling because
we got our camera
is
woman behind the camera.
uh,
Jackie up here. If
She-
you're shaking because
she's
Jackie
shaking.
has started an earthquake.
Jackie said
Jackie.
still.
Yeah, I guess
Anyways,
stay still. That
all right.
camera's gonna go flying when she gets off that.
Anyways, so I had went to go interview downtown for this
She was
position,
wearing a great shirt.
and
This was the
I
greatest shirt.
was more than ready for this interview. I feel like I honestly killed it. I had interviewed with some of the top attorneys at the firm, the HR person, and I guess their administrative person, and I felt like it went really, really well. And mind you, it was a 100-degree day, and I was wearing a nice blouse, which would be kind of like what you see here in the white, but it was
like
black.
A cream.
No, it was black. I wore the black one.
Oh,
It
you
was
wore
black.
the black
Uh-huh.
one? I don't remember.
In any case, it was a sleeveless top, and then I wore slack pants and dress shoes. Hair and makeup about what you're seeing right here. Everything I thought went really well, and when I hadn't heard back for a couple days, I got in touch with the recruiter. The other recruiter was out of town, and I still hadn't heard back, and it was kind of going towards the end of this past week, and I was starting to feel a little concerned, and waiting to hear back from the other firm that I'd interviewed with as well. And I was assuming I would be starting that position this week. So finally, the other recruiter that I had previously been working with got back in town from New York, and she got back to me and said that they literally did not hire me because they said I was dressed unprofessionally, in the sense that I did not wear what you're looking at here is a blazer. And let me tell you how frustrated I was, and the fact that it literally came down to me wearing a blazer is the reason that they passed on me.
But they would have passed.
And
They
were very picky.
They're picky. She's not the girl that she's replacing, and it's a firm of women, and
they're perfectionists,
yeah,
and they, ultimately what it comes down to is they had somebody else that was in the position that they really, really liked, working in that position, but she got accepted into law school and was going to be starting law school in August. And they even said during the interview that she was constantly trying to find things to do to kind of stay busy, and really ultimately it would have been a receptionist and not a paralegal position.
Haley's a paralegal.
Paralegal, so it's kind of taking a huge step down for me if I would have taken it. But I just really wanted to get my foot in the door with the firm out here. So that was really disheartening, and I was a little crushed for the day. So later on, Nick had went to work, and I was just kind of doing some chores, waiting for him to come home. And lo and behold, I had, put on a little movie to keep myself, in good spirits still, and just kind of had it in the background. And he walks in, and admittedly, I was watching Dumb and Dumber. And let me just say, if you've experienced anything similar with me and just the frustrations of, doing all the right things, I felt like, minus wearing a blazer, and ultimately it was just not the right fit, and definitely really below me technically. So in any case, I didn't let go to me.
I think
and
it's God trying to tell you, and this is the thing that we all need to focus on more, is that sometimes we get our hearts set on something that ultimately God doesn't have for us, and He has His way of reminding us that He's in control.
Mm-hmm.
And although we might have our hearts set on something, because I know you had your heart set on that job,
right,
there's something better that comes along, right?
Sure, that's more meant for me. So
yeah, sometimes there's this idea of being still and patient. Like, I can't express how many times I've thought, oh, there's the camera woman again, Jackie. Quit causing earthquakes over there. And,
sit still, be still,
but
our
yeah,
child.
being still. There's God speaking right now through
Yeah.
our cat. The stillness of God is that we cannot fathom. I think when you study into meditation and these sorts of practices, we're talking about being still, right, and having mindfulness to really hear what the universe has to say to us, what God ultimately has to say to us. And I think that only happens when we're listening and we're not constantly moving. And in the lifestyle that we have today, we're constantly moving and constantly trying to put things together, and finding a way to be still and breathe and listen to what God truly has for us is one of the most difficult things.
Sure. I guess kind of like on that path there, sometimes we really, really want something to happen, and that's kind of going back to the rejection thing, and we want so badly for that job, even though it might not be the right job.
Also,
we sadly were reading a post that was emailed to me for some reason on Reddit last night.
Sadly, you were laughing. It was hilarious. It was like,
okay, we don't need to talk about
it was like,
okay, well, it was comical just in the sense of
how ridiculous.
Well, here it is. The guy felt like he was worthless as a man because he just kept on, trying dating apps, trying so hard to have a girlfriend. But the point is the right partner, the right job, things like that we have to be patient with. And you also have to think about what kind of energy you're attracting. If you're trying to attract a partner while you are in that desperate mode and that just kind of desperation, the right things are not going to come to you. Even if a partner comes to you or a job does come to you, then likely what you are going to experience after that is going to probably be even more painful because it's not the right one. So the point here is you just kind of have to be patient. You got to be able to attract the right energy, and a lot of that is being still and trusting that God or higher power or powers may be, the universe, whatever is intended for you, your fate, You just have to wait for it to come to you sometimes. And I just have to say, I even had to remind myself, don't get discouraged. Don't feel like it is a personal, vendetta against you as a human being, as a person. If something isn't right, it's just not right. And we have to just kind of accept that and not get discouraged and be hopeful that the right things will come. So that is all I wanted to say about that. What are your thoughts?
Quite a bit of experience with that. I have always taught that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and that I've experienced this throughout my life so many times. Like even currently in the dark time that I'm in, I remind myself daily through my conversations with God that like even though I'm in a dark time right now, and even if the time I'm in gets darker, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There are so many times where I've struggled with suicide and suicidal ideation, where I thought, man, things are just never going to get better, and like I'm never going to get out of this hole, and everything's too overwhelming. And then I've had these moments of life where things were really beautiful, like things were really good, and I remember being a lot of the time in some of these beautiful moments of my life where I looked back at these darker times that I was in, and I would like remind myself that I was in this really dark place, and I'm so happy that I didn't end my life just because of like this one small, what now seems like such a small thing that I was going through that used to be like so big. And especially to those of you who are like getting out of high school, getting into like life and everything, like sometimes like the expectations of us seem so huge. And one thing I've learned is that like sometimes like
it's more societal pressures than it is.
If everybody just like proverbially didn't live up to those the problem is that we feel so forced to live up to these expectations that everybody tries so hard and they keep raising that bar. Sometimes you just gotta be cool and give up. I've done it so many times where I've just like, you know what, like, I'm just not showing up to work. I remember when I worked at Burger King, they didn't pay me for 4 weeks, right? And there was this lady that worked there for 30 years. Like, she got this job out of high school and just didn't think she could do anything else with her life. I remember working with her, and she was always like, I've been here 30 years. It was her whole personality was like Burger King, right?
Yeah.
And I worked with this lady, and I remember they didn't pay me for 4 weeks, so I just like stopped showing up to work. And I remember one of my friends that worked there said, like, she had said, you can't just quit your job. It's like, yeah, you can. You can do, like, I mean...
You sure can.
We're so
That could have been a
fortunate.
Choice of yours and all of those 30 years.
Well, and it's funny because right after that, like, I threatened to sue my boss because he didn't pay me. And he came right through, right in front of everybody. Everybody that hadn't been paid for 4 weeks sat me down, wrote a personal check out to me because he was embezzling money. And so nobody had gotten paid for 4 weeks except for me because I spoke up and did something about it instead of just laying there and being like, why was me? I can't pay my bills. I called this guy and was like, yo, I was like, dude, I'm going to get a lawyer if you don't figure this out, like, today. And he was like, whoa, like, you don't need to get, like, and it was like, no, like, we're, like, and luckily enough from there, then they investigated that, like, the police investigated that.
Yeah.
And, which wasn't actually me, I didn't snitch on them, but somebody said something finally, because they saw me saying something.
Yeah.
And it was dealt with, and that, unfortunately, Burger King got shut down from there, and I can only imagine that poor lady that was like, so worked 30 years at Burger King and doesn't know what to do with their life. Like, that's the thing, is like, we can't stay stagnant in our ways. We always need to be moving
You gotta
forward.
you gotta take chances sometimes.
Not only that, you just gotta constantly move forward. You have to like remind yourself that like that no matter what,
nothing's
as long well, I've just learned that as long as you truly are a good person, you stay away from things that turn you into a bad person. That for me was drugs and alcohol. And I've learned that as long as I stay away from that sort of stuff, that I continue to just be positive and put positive energy out and just like remind myself that like I'm not a bad person. Even when people have attacked me or when I felt attacked, I've found that eventually everything works itself out in the wash, that God always has me, that there are people praying for me, that there's things going on, that people wish good things upon me and good things eventually happen. Have I been through hard... Shoot, I'm going through a hard time right now. You know this better than anybody.
Yes.
But, like, I have ultimate faith in that no matter what, like, this is going to end up really well for me. If not, like, working out for the best for me. And if it doesn't, then so be it. If that's the path that I'm on, like, then so be it. Like, I don't truly believe that God will ever cause... It is the devil that causes pain. And I think that's the story of Job, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's something that I had a really hard time accepting, like, in my walk with Christianity. I was always like, man, like, this Job guy, he did everything right, and, like, God punished him.
Yeah.
But I think the message of the story isn't that God punished him. The message of the story was that God gave him a struggle to glorify God over Satan when Satan thought that he could take him out. And I think it's really important to remember that when we're struggling and we're going through trials or tribulations like I am right now, that, like, you will be sent things. And in the end of Job's story, he's like one of the richest men in the country, right?
Right.
I think that's something to remind ourselves that, like, the harder we struggle, the more we'll succeed.
Yeah.
The bigger the payout is, even if it doesn't feel like it when you're going through it. Like, I definitely don't feel like it right now. I'm like,
no.
I feel like everything's falling apart. I feel like, like, life is terrible, and, like, you know, I bringing that full circle to, like, these guys that you were, like, reading to me about last night and their struggle with dating.
Yeah.
I think I've definitely been there where I've been like, oh, nobody loves me because I can't get a girlfriend and, like, blah, blah, blah. But that, like, desperation, I feel like women can smell.
Yeah, but there are plenty of women that are desperate too, and there are plenty of women on those dating apps, I've told you, that are, and that have been there where they literally have their little, like, checklist, and they're like, okay, is he 5'10" or taller? Is he got a great job and he can support me? Why that matters, I don't know. Why can't, you know, they both be supportive of each other? I don't know. Is he good looking? Is he balding? Just different things like that, you know, going down a fucking checklist. And as they continue to do that, they're creating, like, this persona of a man that does not exist, and if he does, he's got other flaws.
Wouldn't like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
He's got plenty of other flaws, such as being unfaithful. Maybe he's a narcissist or is abusive. I mean, nobody is absolutely perfect, and that's something else that we all kind of have to accept as well. We are human. Guess what? I didn't wear a blazer that day, but you know what? I have so much to offer. Any law firm that would hire me, I have so much to offer. And if they can't accept the fact that I wasn't wearing a blazer, whatever other stupid excuse they would have made because I wasn't this perfect person that they've built up in their mind, or the girl who has been doing it so perfectly so far, well, you know what? Guess what? Somebody like that they've got a whole bunch of other goals in mind, like going to law school. I still want to go to law school. And I mean, I'm not sitting there telling law firms that while I'm interviewing, because I'm not sitting there saying, well, guess what? In 2 years, I'm going to go to law school anyway. So I just really need this job for 2 years. But the reality is, you know, that's good. And the thing is that nobody is perfect, okay? Oh, Kitty's jostling again.
Yeah, I think that really brings us to the true message of Christ and
Mm-hmm.
something that this world so desperately needs. I think we have all pushed each other, and I think especially in the younger generation, there's this expectation of perfection. And, you know, in some of the traumatic experiences that I've been through therapy, I've learned, because like when you're OCD, I feel like you have this like expectation of perfection with certain things. There's certain parts of OCD where you're like, you want something to be so perfect and you won't accept anything less, or like, you know, you need to do like this many things like this many times, or like it has to be this perfect number, or like these sorts of things. I think we're all starting to develop that as like a society here in the United States, where like because of the financial pressures that are being put on us
And societal pressures.
yeah, that we're like, oh man, can't fuck up, like it, especially like the kind of like cancel culture. Like kids are so scared now to mess something up, and then when they do, they shoot up the school. Like we're like wonder why there's school shootings. It's because there's like so much pressure on kids to be perfect that when they finally snap, they snap in a big way. Like they do something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because that it's too much pressure. Like what I'm getting at is we need to take a chapter from the book of the Bible and of Jesus and learn to forgive each other. Like I'm not saying like you need to forgive somebody for murdering your whole family or something. I'm just saying like, you know, when somebody's made a small mistake, like where they've been or a big mistake even, like if they've like, you know, wrecked the family car, or like they lost a job, or you know, they said something that was offensive, you know, maybe we should start to learn to forgive people, to understand that like we're all human and we all make mistakes, and there's such a culture now of like no forgiveness, like everybody, if you make one mistake, like, and I'm not saying that it's like, you know, we should just accept horrible things from people, but you know, I think that the way we are now today, it's like, you know, we're gonna crucify somebody for, you know, stealing or for being racist or something like that, and it's like, I mean, I feel like people definitely deserve to be rejected for racism, but also, you know, I think it's important to keep in mind that we do need to have freedom of speech, that like, yeah, we don't like it when somebody's racist, but it is important to keep in mind that as soon as you start controlling people's thought and speech, even if we don't like it, that there are people that have poor thought and speech, that, you know, having a mild correction versus like murdering somebody, now you're also the bad guy. Like, are you not the bad guy if you're the one that murders somebody for racism? Now you're a murderer and they're a racist, and it's tragic all around, right? Like, yeah,
well, that's kind of, I feel like, something that they talked about during the sermon yesterday too, in the whatever. Yeah. And he's talking about, you know, basically the whole issue with idolatry is trying to take matters into your own hands and try to be God your own way.
Oh, and we were talking about smoothie religion. That's something that was interesting. You notice that, like, as soon as he said that, the girl sitting next to us just like got up and left. Like, and I mean, it does offend people when you try to tell people, but like, Jesus says in the Bible, in Revelation, and let me see if I've memorized this one good enough. It's like Revelation 6, I think, something. This is one of my favorite verses because I've lived by this, whether I was a Satanist or a Christian. And I've always really found this to mean a lot to me, where he says, that's Revelation. Here's Revelation. Here's 2, 3. We're talking. Yeah, he talks about the persecuted church, the compromising church, the dead church. He says the lukewarm church.
Yep.
In Revelation, 3:16. Christ says, "So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth." He's saying, because and that's where when people talk about like, oh well, I'm gonna take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like maybe I believe in Jesus, but I do these magic workings with tarot cards, and I believe in like these spirit angels, and like use Bible verses and stuff in their magic workings
and twist it into their
own. And like I've met a lot of what's called white witchcraft, where they're like, well, I believe in Mary and Jesus and the Catholic Church, but then
it's an all or nothing thing though.
Yeah, but like Christ is saying like, hey, like if you're gonna be a part of the church, like, and we could go deeper into, actually my name's Nick, Saint Nicholas, who was actually ended up not receiving the gift of Jesus because he built a whole church which was then based on a lot of paganism. And he, like, although many people found that comforting, and I feel like we all find this comfort in the idea that we can take over our destiny through magic work, through like tarot cards, or we can see our future through all this sort of stuff. We're not God. We are not perfect. And when we try to take control of the future of destiny, that angers God, and he turns his face from us. And keep in mind, God only does good. So when God turns his face from us, it is truly Satan that does the bad things in our lives. We only blame God because he's turned from us, and now we see these things as workings of him. And that's something that I think a lot of people, when people are like, oh, well, why do kids have cancer, and why does this happen, and why does that happen, and why are there all these awful things on the face of the earth,
people dying,
if God has control? No, the truth of that is bad things happen to good people. However, that is simply because of Satan's foothold on this earth. When Adam and Eve sinned for the first time and disobeyed God and had a bite of the apple of the truth of life, sin entered the world, and now they would no longer have everlasting life on this earth. So God went and created a way for them to reconnect with him by giving his only son as the perfect sacrifice for all the bad things that we've done. You look at Paul, who murdered Christians, murdered people. He murdered people. And God is saying, Jackie, he's not saying Jackie, I'm sorry. God is saying, and the message that he's trying to send us is that he wants to forgive us, and he was willing to give his son,
right,
in order to have us in his home in heaven, in order to keep us. Like, that's the thing, is like, how good of a God do we have that he was willing to give up, to allow us to torture. And that's another thing, like, we're the ones that tortured his son. He wasn't. He didn't allow that. He turned his face from Christ, and that's what happened. When God turns away from us, when he no longer has his hand controlling our lives, when we're no longer in contact with him and in his blessing, that is when bad things happen in our lives. Not because he's just
he's given up on you.
Yeah,
for no
not
reason
because he just sends, like, people I think picture God as like he's sending tornadoes and earthquakes. God doesn't do that. His creation is perfect. It is only if we follow him that we achieve perfection, and there is no possible way for us to perfectly follow him because Satan exists in the world. But that's what gives us freedom of choice, because just imagine, like, you're a groom and you're waiting for your bride. That's something that's very compared to in the Bible. And they cheat on you, right? Like, that's awful. That sucks. That's the way God feels about us. So thus why he turns from us and says, even though I know that I'm the perfect thing for you, that I'm the perfect man for you,
you have to come to that.
You have to come to that conclusion,
yes.
and I will let you cheat on me as much as you want. And in fact, I even allowed my son to die for your indiscretions so that you can still come and be with me. That's how good of a God we have.
But ultimately, it really comes down to the choices that we make. And instead of giving up on him, because he does not give up on you, the choices that you make in those moments will define what your fate may be. And if you come to God because you don't give up on him, he doesn't give up on you. This is, supposed to be an unconditional agape love, right? And that goes both ways. Then when you come to that realization that, hey, you know what? I'm done trying to do this my way. I'm done trying to, do faith my way, be lukewarm, do things my way. I'm going to do it his way, and I'm going to trust and have faith that he's going to help heal you and make things better for you. Now, if you choose the other way and you just decide to give up, well, you may not realize it, but by default, you are choosing Satan's way, and you're letting Satan think that, I'm not, an acceptable man. I'm not, ever going to find a job. I'm not ever going to do this. I'm not ever going to do that. Guess what? It's kind of going back to that message from last week, thinking positive, thinking negative. Like, I could have taken the whole, rejection because I wasn't wearing my blazer and been like, I'm never going to find a job because I always forgot to wear my blazer. Well, you know what? That's just not the right mindset to have. And point is, yes, like, I can't sit here and try to make my own faith or my own fate. I need to just really lean more towards God right now, and I need to just trust that the right opportunity is going to come to me. I'm going to continue to apply, and I'm going to continue to put forth effort and continue to talk to recruiters, and I'm going to continue, and meanwhile I am going to lean even further into my faith and trusting more in God, and just hope that what is meant to be will be. So that is my message for this week. Is there anything else you would like to add, Nick, before reading some scripture?
I want to tell a funny story.
Okay, tell a funny story.
About Monica. Should I tell the Monica story? This is like an example of like forgiveness, okay? Like I'm gonna turn this dark thing that Monica's on into like a positive message, right? This is a great example.
For those of us who don't know who Monica is,
it's this girl that comes into my work. She does drugs. I run karaoke at this bar, and I'm the bar back, right? And as the bar back, I'm also kind of like the bouncer, right? So I kind of have to keep a control on people, like make sure people aren't smoking weed on the patio, they're not bringing outside alcohol in, just like watching people and like kind of keeping an eye on people that, granted, it's kind of in an interesting area, so there's some interesting characters that come in there, and there's this girl, Monica. She's fine. She's just being the camera woman. She's like, okay, this is what we're talking about. Look, she's even piped up and started paying attention. I'll show Jackie at the very end. How about that? And we have this girl named Monica
at this bar
Hayley
that you work at.
Hayley and Monica kind of have a...
I don't want to talk about it. I don't care for this person.
I mean, nobody really does. Anyway...
she brings nothing but bad luck and bad things upon herself because she continues to make horrible decisions.
She chooses to do drugs. Anyway.
And therefore she steals things, and therefore she tries to sell things she steals.
Wait. Let's tell the whole story, because this is the funny thing.
No, let's just...
So, like, I'm, like, there and doing karaoke, and I'm, like, on my laptop, like, typing in the next song, And she comes up to me and I look at her, I'm like, so do you want to sing, what is it, Carrie Underwood, Before He Cheats, which she always sings every night there, literally.
Every karaoke
every
DJ's
single
worst
night
nightmare
of the week. Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. And then she signs up for like 6 songs and they're all about how her boyfriend cheated on her, and it's, it's sad, and that's the thing. That's where, like, we gotta feel those feelings, even for people that, like, we don't necessarily really want to, because this girl does things like this that let's
okay, let's stick to
she's
the
like
program
standing
here.
there and she's like, no, and she like lost her voice because we'll get into that another date, but she has these 2 like like reusable grocery bags, like, and they're big ones, and they are like full, like
Stolen goods.
Clearly just lifted and boosted from Target or Walgreens or something.
Wherever.
And I'm just like, I just kind of ignore it. Like, first she's like, does your girlfriend want any hair dye or anything? Like, I have hair dye. And she's like going through it. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm sorry. I don't have, any cash on me. I don't want to buy any or stolen stuff. And then...
But because he's bought steaks from her before,
whoa, let's
she's
not admit
assuming,
that.
she's assuming that he's going to buy again, so...
Anyway,
and create a repeat customer out of you.
This is where a lesson was learned, because I'd like given in and felt sorry for her once before, now she's inching and decided she's gonna take another step, and so she comes over to the bar, sets her bags on like 2 of the chairs up at the bar, and just starts taking stuff out and starts arranging it on the bar like we're at a freaking flea market. And she's just gonna start selling this stuff, and she starts going up to people, and she's like in the middle of like talking to this girl, like, would you like these shoes? And she's like showing everybody, she's like, I got these shoes, they still have the tag on them, like all this stuff.
Right, because she stole them.
Yeah. Anyway, this is ridiculous. Like, who in their right mind? I'm sitting there, I'm like,
any bar anywhere would not have allowed this, and the So did you tell her to leave? Did you tell her to stop doing it?
Yeah, I was like, girl, like, no, we cannot. Hey, you have to draw a line with people sometimes.
See, I didn't hear this part of it. I just assumed that they just continued to do it. Therefore, she's going to keep doing it because that's what she keeps doing.
I figured the other bartender might say something first, so I pulled her aside and I was like, what are we going to do about this? And she looks at me and she's like, I feel so bad for her. And I was like, why do we feel bad for her? She's causing problems. Like, clearly, like, this is not going to wind up good for us. So I went over there and I was like, I'm going to get a text from my boss about this. This needs to go right now. I was like, this is not happening. And she looked at me and she was like, really? And like, here's the thing where like sometimes in life, you have to know where to draw the line. And that was the line. That was like where it was like, okay, this is getting way out of control. And in my own life, where like I'm realizing that me working at this bar is kind of getting out of control. So anyway, what are you gonna? I'm sorry. I was telling you this story. I have another funny story. This one's actually pretty funny. Should I tell him the Chili's story?
What's the Chili's story?
Did I tell you the Chili's story?
I don't think so.
The guy at Chili's that wanted to fight me?
No.
Oh,
what
gosh.
Chili's?
This is a good one.
When?
The Chili's right down the street over here. So one time, I'm a server at Chili's, right? This was quite a few years ago now. I'm working at Chili's. This couple comes in with their kid, and they're like middle-aged. I remember what the lady ordered specifically, and you'll see because of the story. She ordered the chicken and rice with broccoli. And then the guy had an iced tea, she had a lemonade, and then the kid had like chicken tenders or something, right? Mm-hmm. They cut somebody, and I don't know, for those of you who don't know about cutting, they cut the floor, right? They sent somebody home, so I took over another section.
This means that somebody gets to go home and it's less servers on the floor.
Yeah, so I have to take more tables.
Right.
And so Then we got a rush, and my whole section filled up.
Which means they get
and
really
I was
busy.
sick too. I wasn't feeling good. I remember that specifically. I was like, you know, I had like stuffy nose, like just wasn't feeling great. And I took all these tables, right? And I'm like running around. I had like these 2 big tables. And like generally people that come into Chili's are like not super fun to work with. Usually when people go to Chili's it's because they're broke, so it's like not usually the best, you know, interactions, and you've kind of got to learn to like deal with that.
How was the money there then?
Awful.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm like taking these 2 big tables, and then I get another table, and I get that all taken care of. I get all their drinks to them, and then I go in the kitchen. And they're talking about this lady's food to me. They're like, Nick, because at Chili's they microwave their broccoli. It's like frozen. They like portion it out and then freeze it and then microwave it, and that steams it before they put it on the plate. Sorry, Chili's, if I'm ruining a secret, but everybody knows. Anyway, so they're microwaving this lady's broccoli, and it's been a while because I'd helped all these tables. It'd been like 20-30 minutes since I'd taken their order.
Yeah.
I helped all these tables, so, and they're asking me, they're like, Nick, like, this lady's broccoli isn't up yet, should we wait for it? And I could just tell by this guy's, like, demeanor that he was in a bad mood, probably.
Yeah.
And that, like, we should definitely get their food to them right away. So I'm like, no. I was like, let's just wait on the broccoli, let the broccoli cook, send her with just chicken and rice.
Oh gosh.
To the table, right? Yeah, you see where this is going? I'm like, just send it. I've got to get a couple more things, and then I'll be right there. And so I went and like got another table, helped that table, and then went back to this guy sitting there, and his iced tea's empty, so he's all upset about that because he probably sucked it down in 2 seconds because he was thirsty and didn't ask for water, which is like whatever. And so I'm refilling his iced tea, and their food was on the table, and at this point I'd already taken another table's order. Well, I'd had like 3 or 4 tables, and I'd taken their order, so I'd forgot about this whole broccoli situation. And so I you know, I would have eventually realized like, oh yeah, she's missing her broccoli, and I would have like looked at the table and figured it out. But I'm like filling this guy's iced tea, and as I hand it to him, I'm like, is there anything else I can do for you guys? And he goes, where the fuck's her food, bro? That was exactly what he said to me. And I like looked at her plate, and like, of course, remember, like, I'd forgotten about the broccoli at this point.
Oh.
So I'm like looking at her with a plate with chicken and rice on it. Like, it just looked like she ate one of her sides. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's right there, like in my head. And so I look at it, and I'm like, excuse me? And he goes, where the fuck is her food? And I looked at him, and I was like, you don't have to be rude to me, sir. I'll bring her broccoli in just a moment. And this guy fucking stands up and pushes his fat belly up against me, pushes me, and starts pushing me towards the kitchen. And he's like, do you want to go? Do you want to go? I'll meet you in the parking lot right now, like right in front of everybody. And I mean, at this point, like, I'm just laughing because I'm like, over broccoli? Like, I could understand if I brought everything out and I was like, and she doesn't get any food because fuck her or something. But like, she had food. Like, all 3 of them had food. And this kid embarrassing himself, like, you could see his wife like throw her hands in her face, like, oh boy, here he does it again. Like, he does this at every restaurant. I can imagine a divorce probably ensued shortly after this. Anyway, like, he walked me all the way to the kitchen. And like demanded to see the manager in the kitchen. And the best part was like my manager's like 6'4" and like ripped. He comes out and his attitude like immediately changes. Like he's just like, oh, he's like, well, this little fuck was being rude to me. And he was like, well, you still can't be in my kitchen. And the most unfortunate part of all this is that all their food was free after that because he raised a big stink when, you know, and people steal that way all the time. People would do this other scam at Chili's.
They call them gypsies or something.
Yeah. People ran this other scam at Chili's with, you know, the little like kiosk things that they have on the tables, right? Yeah. So a family would go out, take up 2 booths, right? Because there's like big families here in Lakewood, and they would like switch kiosks. So one family would order like dessert and steaks and all this sort of stuff, and then the other family would like order, you know, like cheaper items like chicken tenders and stuff.
Yeah.
Or other part of the family. They're all part of the same family, but this is the scam. They'd be like, okay, we're gonna pay for this one, and we're gonna pay for this one, and then they would switch the kiosks, and then one of them would pay first for the cheaper one, and then leave, so that the other one would be like, oh, why is our food so expensive? We didn't have any of this stuff. Like, this should all be free now. Can you go get your manager? And then like they would like make this big stink before we could even realize that they'd like done this whole scam where they just switched the kiosks on the table. Like, where there is a will, there is a way, and people like free stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that those problems fall on us servers, because then your manager's like, well, why didn't you realize this was happening? Well, I'm sorry, Jerry, but like, I have 14 other tables. I'm sorry that 2 of them decided to run a scam on me. Like, it's my fault. You know, they always do that. They you know, it's your fault as a server, as a bartender. Like, you should be paying attention to these things. And granted, I have learned to catch these things as they are happening, but they happen way more than anybody realizes anyway.
Yeah.
So those are 2 of my fun stories of working in a restaurant.
And yeah.
More to come. How about we do this every week? Oh, like crazy Nick story.
Yeah, well, point is, you know, we all have some jobs that have been really crappy and bad things have happened, and you know, it just comes down to how you deal with it. Like,
the most fun.
You didn't lose your attitude, and
No.
you didn't let it affect you, because you don't have control over other people's.
Well, I certainly
life.
wasn't gonna beat somebody up over broccoli. My boss said to me later, he was like,
Because you value your job.
he's like,
at
this guy
Chili's.
tried to fight you over broccoli, and I was like, yeah, and like it was like a joke for like weeks. And it was like, I remember him being like, I could understand if you spilled coffee on like my newborn baby, but like broccoli.
Yeah, that could have been a borderline, you know, lawsuit.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, I love that. Listen, we all have situations and we're challenged, you know, daily. Just all I can really say on that is, like, you know, when the going gets tough, don't sweat the small stuff. And, you know, speaking of someone who definitely, I've been tested over and over and over again. We tested and talked about it briefly. We are now talking about Job, and this is where we are going to conclude our message for today. And Nick is continuously underlining a random part of this, which was not what I was about to discuss.
No,
but
you read what you read.
Yeah, anyhow, I want to talk about how in all of these things where Job had been tested over and over and over again, this chapter is 27, Job 27, and I'm just going to read, I'll read 27, 1 through 8. And this is where they talk about him maintaining his integrity. So, moreover, Job continued his discourse. Discourse, for those of you that are not aware of it, is just basically exactly what it means. You know, bad things happening, right? So discourse can be the contribution of bad things happening, right? So moreover, Job continued his discourse, so he's continuing to be challenged. And he says, as God lives, who has taken away my justice, and the Almighty who has made my soul bitter, as long as my breath is in me, and the breath of God in my nostrils, my lips will not speak wickedness, nor my tongue utter deceit. Far be it from me that I should say you are right, till I die, will not put away my integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. So, kind of what you were saying about what happened in your little silly story, you were unaffected. So we can be tested and tested and tested, but ultimately the lesson is here that, you know, as much as bad things had continued to happen to Job, he knows that he's not a horrible person and it's not necessarily his fault, but he has recognized that trusting in the Lord above all else and maintaining his integrity, meaning his goodness, you know, God's got him. God's got us all. And just don't let these bad things that continue to happen, you know, stray you from whatever your goal may be. So that is pretty much all that I have to say about that. I don't know if you have any comments because you were over here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I as soon as you brought this up, I saw something, and you know, all of these experiences in life bring us wisdom, even if they're bad. And here's something from Job that when you go through a bad experience, you gain wisdom. That wisdom is the most valuable thing that we have because we can pass it on to others so that they may not experience those bad experiences. I think experience itself is not the only way to gain wisdom, but to gain true wisdom and to have true wisdom is to... That's why we see the elderly as wise. It is because they've experienced the most. And they know how they got things that were bad and how they got things that were good. And if we truly learn to listen to them, then that wisdom is worth more than any gold or anything. And that's what the Bible says here. But where can wisdom be found, and where is the place of understanding? Man does not know its value, nor is it found in the land of the living. The deep said, "It is not in me," and the sea says, "It is not with me." It cannot be purchased for gold, and then it goes on to say, like, for, you know, anything valuable. It says, "It is hidden from the eyes of all living and concealed from the birds of the air. Destruction and death say, we have heard a report about it with our ears, and God understands its way." So wisdom is found with God. And I think that meaning is to truly understand why you're having a bad time or why you're having a good time. And to truly understand the meaning of that is to find it in the Word of God. And through a constant connection and you know, meaningful relationship with God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, which surround us.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, close us in prayer.
Am I closing us in prayer today?
Would you like me to?
I would like you to. I did it last week. It's your turn.
Okay, it's my turn. It's my turn. Well, let me see your hand. Okay. Watchers, grab our hands. Form this circle. Circles are great.
Yeah.
Jesus, please bless you. Put your holy blessing over us and anybody who might be on the other end of this. Lord, I just pray a powerful prayer that, you know, you use the words that we have spoken today and speak in the future, and our light and our message and our experience to change others' lives, whether it be anybody watching this today. Jesus, I just pray for whoever's on the other side of this, that you just show them through us that you understand what they're going through and that you can and will deliver them from whatever it is that they're going through, that you heal them, that you redeem them, that you break those chains around them, that you move through us to their life, that you raise them up and give them just a powerful message from you, from us to them from you, that you use our lives to glorify you and in turn glorify yourself through their lives, Jesus. I just pray for anybody who's listening to this that like these messages might make them angry, that you just qualm that angriness, that you pour water over it, that you just show anybody who has hurt in their heart from things that have happened to them from so-called Christians, that you just show them through your light and your glory and your beauty that not true Christians are like that, Jesus. I understand that there are a lot of people in a lot of pain from other people that have hurt them, but to show them that that's not your way, God. And Jesus, I just pray that you heal us and that you heal this nation that we're in that's so divided on so many things, that you can bring people together and use it to glorify yourself, to make this whole world united and bring peace among men and just happiness and abundance among everyone. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you all for listening and watching, and please continue to do so. And any likes or comments or shares or questions.
Yeah, we get a lot of views. I wish there was a little bit more interaction.
Yeah, so please interact some more and share.
We'll see you
next
in
time.
the coming week.
Bye.